I do have 6 o'clock. Looks like maybe mostly here. I think all members are planning to be present tonight. There is it seems like there might be a little traffic incident out towards the east side of town that might be holding some up. It was, well, traffic incidents. Let's just go with that right now. They've got a traffic incident. So let's move from that point forward. Moving at this time tonight, we've called together Budget and Finance as we are sitting here tonight on the 10th of June, looking at, and I do want to set the stage back where we are. Budget and Finance has been through the budget as a whole. In the beginning, I asked that the budget be presented to Budget and Finance in a manner that had a status quo. We went through and have approved all budgets with favorable recommendations to the commission with a status quo, which means last year's numbers from that point. Now, there are some increases that are, as we all know, it costs more every day to do small things. So those increases may be there to cover increased costs, but not in wage side of things. So on the wage side of things, we asked and went through this budget without any wage increases. At this point, the last two nights that we've called, our discussion has been, and just like we said from the beginning, how are we going to make those wage increases and what is it going to cost us? That's the big piece here. You received an email maybe yesterday sometime, or maybe this morning, I believe, with these same numbers, but they've got them on your desk, on your table now. When I'm speaking on these numbers, for example, we are talking, they're not, forgive us that we didn't number these, so it's pretty close, but I'm on about the third page is where you really see the totals for all out of 101 cost wise. I think it'd be the bottom of the fourth page is where you would see with benefits. Also, I think we received an email as well that stated the penny value has come in a little higher, about $400 higher than estimated in our original piece of the budget. This document does reflect numbers with that new adjusted penny value. So it is up to date with the adjusted penny value. Prior to leaving, it seemed like our committee last week was looking at a dollar number versus a percent number. Seemed to be the case. So everything that's presented to you here tonight is in dollar numbers, not percent numbers. Our main task is to hopefully finish a budget that can be in front of work session in June and moving to the next piece. If you look at the small sheet is just Sheriff's 101 General. So that's why I was over in the on page 4 of the larger packet. I think when we left last week, we were looking at dollar figure numbers. That's where we're at. And I think the email that came on the annual one, on the third one, seemed to be where conversation on the emails that went out were asked for, which had EMS at $1, other employees all at $1.50, making that equal or as close to equal as we think we can get based on the fact that EMS has 96 hours of overtime scheduled per month. That's where that equals out at. And Sheriff at $2, which is about an 8% raise. Reminding you as we talk dollars from last week, on a normal pay, 40-hour a week, $1 or 50 cents is worth a little over $1,000. That's what equivalence is per of increase in pay you're looking at. And I know we've started straight off to the the punch here of pay. That's what we are here tonight to make those decisions. You also see under those, each of those on this, that if we went to that $1.50 and $2, it would cost an 8 cent or 8.5, what's that? 8 3/4 cent tax increase to cover that money. Where we're at currently is we've balanced the budget without a tax increase. Everything we do from here on to increase wages will require pennies. I would say that I think we had discussed whether it would be a whole value for everybody or whether there would be some different pays in different departments. I wasn't sure that the committee wasn't a little bit split on that last week. I myself have a belief that there may be certain departments that take on different challenges than all. Our biggest decision is where are we going from here with that? I will say that I personally would like to support the line 3, which has the dollar for EMS, the $1.50 and the $2, or we could go with a $3,000 increase across the board for all employees, which is what that is. And then a $4,000 increase to pay for the sheriff's departments, which what that would equivalent to. I will say this, based on Tennessee Code Annotated, the mayor's increase in salary this year is $3,300. That's what your elected officials roughly gained. That's based on Tennessee Code Annotated. It was $3,300. So we're right in the same boat as that with everyone. Your education department 141 voted in at $3,000 for all teachers because they had to get to a $50,000 minimum pay by this year. So there are some pieces that have happened. Sheriff Russell.
I brought this up in years past, and a lot of county departments around here, whatever the elected officials get, whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%, or sometimes don't even get a raise a year. A lot of them go by that scale. If the elected officials get a 2% raise, the employees get a 2% raise. I don't know if y'all ever put any thought to that. I brought it up back years ago, and sometimes elected officials might go 2 or 3 years without getting a raise.
Sheriff, I believe the mayor's raise this year was about 3%.
Yeah.
Are you good with 3% this year?
No, I'm talking
Oh.
about from the future on.
I was thinking that'd be a really good idea if you're
No,
good with
I'm
that.
talking about from the future on.
Oh, okay. I
You know-
didn't think so, but
Well, all elected officials get a 3%.
understood.
And-
Well, they get TC code annotated, whatever's voted on in that TC code
And I
annotated.
think if county could do that each year, just go by what the rate is set by the state, whether it's a 2% or 2.5%, or a lot of counties do that. And it cuts out a lot of, you know, what you look forward to, what you want to pay next year, and cuts out a lot of this and that.
I think Travis County's in an interesting place where we look at our revenues and our revenue streams we've discussed many times, which are interestingly tough to come by. But this year, the mayor's was $3,300 is the increase to that. The reason I went with the mayor's, that's the highest individual in the county. We've asked for some pretty high raises. That pay, as stated, is why I said I would like to support the $1 or $3,000 raise to EMS, $1.50, which is still equivalent to $3,000 for all other employees, and $2 to the sheriff, which is a $4,000 raise to sheriff's employees. I believe there is an element of difference to the job, which, as I stated, is roughly an 8% increase on that one. It would cost 8 3/4 cents to make it happen. Commissioner Gregory?
Question of the proposal you mentioned, you said it would, 8 3/4 cents to, what?
8.78.
Okay, I was looking on the wrong, page.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was off 3/100ths of was off on that. I just. It makes sure we're all on the same page. I am not looking at the one that's just talking about Sheriff's 101. I am on page 4 of the large packet that you had, starts off with a pie chart. Commissioner Gregory, you'd be happy to know that in looking through this, and I say you, but urban service, you should be happy to know that it looks like what we're doing with this wouldn't have to increase urban service at all. Commissioner Gregory,
I was just like, maybe the next few years, we need to start looking at like I mean, I got a pay schedule, like I know what I'm making when I start out. I know what I'm gonna be making in 10 years. I mean, we start to need to start looking at it or not, we're gonna be battling this deal every year. I mean, we need to get a set schedule and know what they're gonna be making when they start, know what they're gonna be making in 1 year, 2 year, and 10 year, and I'm topped out in 10 years. I mean, we got to start looking at something like that. If not, we're gonna be fighting this every year.
I think you make a very good point that we need to have a set pay piece that is here's our schedule. Here's your scale.
That's what Lafayette Police Department's done. They're on an 8-year top out. They start out at a certain rate. They get 50 cents an hour every year after, up to 8 years, plus the cost of living.
But we do get a cost of living on that, but we know what we making when we start out. I know what I'm making at 10 years when I top out. We got to start doing something like that. If not, we battling this every year.
This has been a battle for the last 5, that is for sure. I will ask that we remember to ask permission before we speak, just to keep this thing together, all together. Emotions always run high in money. I get that. I think they're tight and those pieces are going in those ways. We're at a pretty interesting spot where we're having to raise property tax or look at raising property tax just to make the increases that we're looking at. And these are not massive increases. I mean, they're decent increases, but they're not massive by any means. $3,000 roughly equivalent to the majority is not a huge raise. I understand that completely. I think it will still be felt in your pocket, and I think they would be appreciative. I would hope our employees would be appreciative of that number. But it seems to be the reason I brought out the teacher salaries that was voted upon by the Board of Education that's been presented to us and been favorably approved in here, and the mayors where they were both right around that $3,000 mark. I think seems to be a fair number to look at, which is where the dollar EMS, $1.50 and $2, or we could just literally state we're giving $3,000 to all employees that are non-sheriff and sheriff's 4,000. I care not, or you can go with all of them at 3,000. Y'all make those decisions here and we vote on it from there. The one thing I want you to make sure you're looking at is on these numbers, what are we when we're talking about those numbers, what percent of increase we're talking, or what penny of increase we're talking about of property tax that's going to have to be voted on. Mr. Russell, Sheriff Russell.
You know, Bub was talking about that 3 years ago. We done that pay study and there was a step plan there and it was passed to go by that, but we never have since first time it was passed.
I think we've gone by it every year. It's 2.4% per step.
Now, but it's supposed to be a step plus cost of living.
No, sir. It's got its steps in there and they're set at 2.4% for each step. That's what covered that cost of living piece. That's how that pay scale was set.
But your years of services increase from year to year, it goes up. Then there's a cost of living attached on to that too. If you go back and look at it, that's the way it was set up. Am I right, Amy?
Ms. Overman,
May I ask the sheriff a question?
you may.
If we give you 10% this year, what are you going to ask for next year? Are you gonna be happy with cost of living moving forward?
If we'll do like what I just said, we get it moved up and whatever elected officials get, that's what the county employees, most people go by that.
So
And
what
that
I'm
way-
inclined to do is a 10%. I know we've talked about a dollar figure, but I'm inclined for sheriff's department to get 10% because that's what they've asked for. And then I'm leaning towards the 50 cent for EMS and $1.50 for everybody else. That's where I'm at. And I think that would be about a 15 cent tax increase. So I'm just putting it out there that that's where I'm at right now.
I would like to say this, I think for most employees in the sheriff's department, the 10% would be less than what the $2 we're looking at here. If they're,
The sheriff has asked for 10%.
do I hear a motion anywhere? Commissioner Gregory, if you'd step to the chair for me.
Mr.
I don't ever like to make a motion from the chair, so I appreciate you doing that. I would like to look, I'm on page 4. I would like to look at the annual increase. Setting, the third one, it's in that greenish color, looks like, the third one to the right, $1, $1.50, and $2. I would like to look at going, I'd like to make a motion that we go with that route. I believe it's a very strong increase to all, and it keeps our property tax increase less than 10 cents, which I think is manageable since we're putting all that straight towards employee pay. When we're talking going above 10 cents for employee pay, I think we're getting really strong in a raise. I would make a motion that we go with the annual increase on the dollar for EMS, $1.50 for others, which makes both those about a $3,000 raise, and the sheriff at $2, which makes a $4,000 increase to each individual in the sheriff's.
Point of order. Sure. Didn't Ms. Overman make a motion already?
She did not.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all heard, you heard Mr. Gully's motion. Do I hear a second on this? I hear a second. I second. I'll second the motion. Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Right.
Mr. Gregory,
Just to clarify, you're going with the 8.78 plan on page 4.
I do believe, I'm going with that number, but I believe we can go with about 8 cents or so and cover the other penny.
Okay, but you're talking the dollar EMS, $1.50 otherwise to sheriff is the one that you were motioning for.
That's correct, which would be $3,000 for the EMS and $3,000 for all other employees, roughly.
Okay.
And a $4,000 increase to sheriff's department. I've mentioned a few times, I think that there are certain departments, I'll say it as the sheriff in this case, that probably is at a point where their job may require more danger from time to time.
I want to make sure I was clear on that. Thanks, sir.
any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. Take it back. All right, we're back at the seat with no change. Commissioner Gregory?
To somewhat piggyback on Ms. Overman's point, of course, the sheriff did ask for 10, EMS asked for 10 also. And, I think we've seen in the past few days, the importance of both departments, in keeping our county safe. I'm not saying that they're not deserving, but I don't know how you do one department and not do the other. But, now I have sat here before and said I was okay with doing a higher one for some departments other than others, but like I said, the past few days, we've seen how important EMS and the sheriff are. I think we need to try it. If we don't do the same for both, we at least need to try to keep it somewhat equitable.
Your motion was heard. I've spoken quite a few times with Mr. Beatty. In his discussion, I don't think he has felt as if in this dollar, the way we talked, that he felt that it wasn't an okay deal. In speaking with him, I may have spoken incorrectly. He's here with us, but in speaking with him a couple times, I think he felt as if the sheriff receiving what that was, that like I just had motioned, he felt okay with that from what I gathered. If you would come to the microphone.
When we discussed those, I assumed that was what we were doing for everyone at that time, not that there was going to be some departments getting more than others. We never discussed any sheriff department business.
Mr. Beatty, I think I have an email that would show differently, that we were saying that at 63 cents, that would not equal us to $1.50, and we were talking $1.50 and two then with the sheriff, but you may not have understood it at that time.
I don't remember us saying the sheriff's department was getting a higher amount in any email. Or
Understood.
Be happy to look at them if you like.
So would your department be okay with, if it ended up at a $3,000 raise and another department ended up at a $4,000? Is that a major issue?
I mean, I think it would be fair if we both got the same amount, or at least a reasonable.
Is 3 and 4 not reasonable?
No,
You have it before you. We had a motion. You have nothing. It failed. We have nothing on the table. Mr. Ford?
You know, this is, 4 years in a row that we've given raises plus a large COVID share. I don't know how long this county can stand this when it's already now falling back on the taxpayers. We're in a bad situation. I think everybody knows that. Our sales tax is very minimal. So the only thing we got is sales tax and property tax. 2 years back, I wanted to start a wheel tax. Member told me, one of our members. said,
Commissioner
"No,
Ford.
I'll kill it."
Commissioner Ford, at this time,
Wait a minute.
Commissioner Ford, at this time, we're not here to discuss a wheel tax piece. I get your view on it.
Listen to me.
Commissioner
You heard
Ford,
me last week, but you didn't hear me. If you had a wheel tax, you know what you could do with that? If we'd have did that a year ago, we could have eliminated a lot of debt. And that could have been, some of that money could have been used for other things.
Commissioner Ford, we won't disagree that a wheel tax could be very beneficial, and another tax to another tax of revenue. At this time, that real wheel tax is not on the table nor in the pieces. I'm going to ask that we stay away from the wheel tax conversation here tonight because it's not on our table here today.
I'm talking historically.
I understand your talk, just
I'll
not,
make a motion that we go with $1.50 for both those.
to all.
No, these two here, ambulance and the sheriff's department.
So
I
the
think you
ambulance
said that'd be about a $3,000 each raise.
and the other county employees.
I don't know how much it's gonna affect us there.
These were with all employees.
Pardon?
What's in front of you here with the $1.50, the $2, the 50 cents and the $1.50. If you go over to the blue, the 50 cents, I think it's for EMS makes the same amount of money as the $1.50 is what we've kind of understood, or making those equivalent. Another way to make those equivalent might be to just say, I'd like to give this amount of money increase, and then Miss Amy can work out how much that is.
Well, that's actually what I'm saying.
Okay. By that, I'm saying like not $1 an hour figure, but a $3,000 this year raise,
3,000.
$3,000 raise. for all or only,
Puts everybody in the same boat. I don't see how we can show favoritism from one over another. It's not right.
understood? But you're not just saying EMS and sheriff then in that motion?
No.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to put all employees a $3,000 raise. I believe that will cost somewhere in the 7 to 8 cents. It's not perfect, but it'd be really close. All employees was what he stated.
I know. I just wanted to say I'm not on this committee, so I can't vote. So I'm just here to listen, so.
Next time, make sure I call on you before we could talk. Thank you, man. We saw some of EMS have to leave there just a second ago. I appreciate their quietness leaving. Well-mannered and well-behaved with it. You have a motion. I want to restate this motion for you. You have a motion on the table for a $3,000 annual raise to all employees under Charleston County. That's part-time as well. Would it be okay if they're, okay, I won't disagree with you. Is it okay in your motion that if some part-time don't want the 3,000, they don't have to take it? Okay, I just want to make sure of that. I think we may have some that was my concern. You have a motion on the table that has a $3,000 across the board for each employee raise. That's what is before you. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Can we get a ballpark number from Amy on what that would look like before we?
It is going to be very close to what I just stated of the 7 to 8 cents. That's what we're talking about. Very close to 7 to 8 cents. I actually asked her before and she said it would be okay to do. I asked her well before that if that came to the table and she said yes, but I just can't do it tonight. So but on those numbers, it's going to be very close to what we're talking here. Very close. It will be really close to the blue, but a little higher than where the blue's at, most likely. But not as high as the far yellow. Y'all want to call those A, B, and C? I don't care in front of you, but that's what we have in front of you. I'll mention it one more time. We have a motion on the floor for a $3,000 across the board increase. I will make a second to that. I have a motion and a second for a $3,000 across the board raise. Would cost between 7 and 8 cents of property tax increase. Do I hear any further discussion? That puts everybody equal. Do I hear any further discussion? If not, I state again, that's going to be, we will have the numbers by Monday night, but it will be really close to between the blue and the yellow, that B and the C on your options here. I think they've been discussed in email a little bit. We'll be really close to those pieces. It is equal for all in that piece. Do I hear any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating, actually, I'm gonna do this by roll call because it seemed a little closer earlier than I'd like it. So, on a roll call, we will start with Commissioner Bubba Gregory. Yes. Beverly Atwood. Mr. Dennis is absent. Jerry Ford. Chris Gregory. Leslie Overman. Landon Gully, I vote yes. At 5-1 and 1 absent, that proposal is favorable. Now, in that, and I think I stated the motion in that way that Mr. Ford did, that it included the tax increase that was being recommended, that we would know for sure. But I would like to, I really wish I had Mr. Beller here to consult on this. I think we'd be best to propose a recommended tax increase to send with this as well. We might err on the side of 8 cents. It won't be, it should not be higher than 8 cents on what we just discussed. I would like to have something, we're running kind of against a window here of time. I'm sorry. Set it at 2:06. Actually, I think we could come up with a pretty quick number, actually. Miss Amy, 141 employees. Is that correct? 141? We can get you a quick number. Is that right? Even though all our positions aren't filled, we would. Basically, you would go, this is right here, 132. What's that number, 36? Where's that new number at? 36.1, I don't have it. Somewhere. The 36.1 or 36,529. All positions. Because all positions are filled. It would appear. This says. All right, I will have to admit a mistake here in this case. I was reading these as they would normally be on the pages, and the next page is where the totals would be. But unfortunately, the totals were at the top. So with that said, with the totals at the top, we were looking at 8.48 cents to cover all employees at roughly the 3,000 we were talking about. So but I'm on page, these pages went backwards on us today. I will apologize for that. I think received these, and Miss Amy's, this is not towards her. There's been a lot of work to get these numbers out. They didn't get to us until, I believe, sometime this morning, and she did a great job getting them to us. But as I read them, I'm used to reading through it, and then the next page is where it totals up. What she did is, if you will look on page, to get us all on the same page here, I'm on page 3 of the packet where we have a pie chart on it. Those numbers at the top there are what have all funds in them, not the next page 4, where I was at the 721 and the 878. There's the confusion. would be equivalent to the blue column. The 8 and some change cents. So it would be between 8 and 9 cents, not 7 and 8 cents. That's the difference. Not a huge difference, fortunately. Most of the employees are in the 101. The back page is only 101. That was the difference. That's what it was. But it's in there. All right, so to bring us back to table, what has been passed is the dollar figure has been passed, the $3,000. By that passed is it's being favorably sent to the commission. I'm not saying to go spend $3,000. Please all hear that, okay? It is not guaranteed today. It is being favorably recommended from here to the commission. That will be looked at in 2 weeks and then we'll know where we're going from there. At this point, what we do have is in front of us, I would like to recommend a cent increase on property tax from this committee to next week to be discussed on. It looks like that needs to be between 8 and 9 cents at this point. And that should cover all positions. Reminder that we come in at, we budget revenues on 92%. That's why I'm saying it should cover, even if it needed to be 9 or 9, 8 would cover, because we generally always get above 92% of our revenue stream of property tax in. Chief, will you take that public mic? I've turned you on right there.
Yes, I'd like to ask the chair to please clarify that in your motion to set it $3,000 per employee, that's based on a 2,080 hour per year employee, based on a 40-hour employee.
No, sir, it's gonna be based on a $3,000. So she's gonna figure it up to how much that would need to be a $3,000 increase. So by the end of the year, it'd be $3,000. That's what the motion was.
Okay, so you've got 40-hour employees getting $1 amount and a 86, well, a 2236 employee getting a different hourly rate.
Everyone is getting $3,000 by that motion.
Yes.
That's what that would be.
But-
It would take different equivalencies to get to that. That's correct. But they would get $3,000.
Okay, so in that motion of $3,000, a 40-hour employee is getting $1 per hour pay raise, and the 86 every 2 weeks is getting a different dollar per hour pay raise.
They would get $3,000. That's what they would get. It has to equal to $3,000. Yes, sir.
All right, to make sure the chair understands, that's fine.
I 100% understand. We have employees that are at EMS does 96 hours of overtime in theirs, that we have 12-hour employees that we have, I think work 42 a week is what 12 hours.
43.
43. I well understand where we're at on those pieces. That's why it was easier for Miss Amy to hear a number that was directly at a value.
Okay, as long as the committee understands that they're passing separate hourly wages for employees inside the same department.
Everybody's getting a $3,000 based on that motion.
All right, sir.
Mr. Ford. Go, thank you, Mr. Ford.
At 207, that'll give you 8.23 to make it happen.
Mr. Ford has made a motion to set the new tax rate at $2.07.
Yes, that gives you 8.23.
Yep, 20700. So Mr. Ford has made a motion to set the new tax rate at 2.07. It's a little over an 8 cent increase. Do I hear a second to the motion? Do I hear a second to the motion? I will second the motion. We've got to have the money to cover the raise we just put in for before. Any further discussion?
Is that gonna be enough to cover that?
I believe it will be. Yes, sir. Miss Amy and I both feel like we'll be okay. She may come back to us Monday night and say, you know what, that ain't gonna cover it. But right now, I believe what we're looking at, it should cover it. We looked through some numbers pretty quick. And if no further discussion, I'll ask on the table now, and I'm gonna do that one as just an aye or a nay. All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposed. It is favorable. All right, I believe. I will mention this based on the sheets you had in front of you on the tax rate that we're currently at. I think it's important, we'll start at a figure, a dollar figure of conversation. If it's $500,000 of money, on property tax value, 500,000 of property tax value, it will be less than $125 of increase on your property tax bill, which is not a huge feeling. Unfortunately, I'm afraid my groceries have gone up more than that, it seems, in a 2 week span. So at this point in time, it is a number that we've put forth. Miss Amy feels like that will be enough to cover where we're at. She will, I'm sure, email us and let us know if that's not. At this point, unless, yes, sir.
I just wanted to clarify on the overtime for EMS. There's 824 hours of scheduled overtime and a 48-hour schedule.
I've got it somewhere in here. Miss Amy and I were discussing it's 96 hours per month.
Well, that's higher than what I have.
I-
There's 9 pay periods where you get 16 hours of overtime and 17 pay periods where you get 40 hours of overtime in a 26 pay periods.
I think the difference there may be 26 pay periods, and we're talking monthly. So I was speaking in monthly, which would be 24 pay periods, and there's 2 more pay periods there.
Okay.
That would be the difference in that. I will, as I always do, I'll open the floor here in just a second to anybody in the public that wants to speak. I do, if we have multiple, we'll ask you to keep it to a minute. I do want you to know that what we sit up here and do, and I hope you understand that, what we sit here and do, is never, and I try to never put an employee's face in my mind of those pieces, but I want to know this. I appreciate what you do, and I hope it's seen in the bits of raise that we're able to do. Unfortunately, in the county we live in, the money that we have coming to this county is revenue streams are very small. And we have to go to the property tax piggy bank to make those dollars up. And I think it's a tough job. I hope everyone understands that, and it's not taken lightly. I think, and I wish and appreciate every member for the time they spent going through this piece here. Do I have any public comment? Anybody want to speak? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd just like to recommend that the mayor get with the elected officials, department heads for the next year's budget and try to get this pay schedule, or you know what you're making when you start out, know what you'll be making in 10 years and top out, some kind of top out pay. If not, we're gonna be going through this every year. I think if we could look at a structured deal, know what you're making when you start out, know what you're gonna be making in a year, know what you're gonna be making in 2 years, know what you're making in 10 years, then you top out. I mean, then you still get maybe a cost of living doing it.
I believe we have a committee, personnel committee that could certainly spend some time looking into that.
As chair of the personnel committee, I'm happy to add that to the agenda. It's so fun.
I wasn't gonna call you out on that one, but yes, ma'am. I believe we do have an opportunity there where we could put forth some time. It will not be a light piece. That is not a light piece to take on, but I think it is worth the work. Again, motion by Commissioner Gregory to adjourn. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, I know at the last week's meeting, there was some discussion on the fire per diem, and I didn't know if the committee wanted to address that tonight at all.
I think the fire per diem has been favorably recommended by the committee if the resolution goes through. I think the resolution is what sits in front of that. If you want to speak on it, we can.
Can I comment on that?
You sure may.
I read the minutes from the Budget and Finance actual meeting, not a budget hearing, and that resolution was recommended favorably from the Budget Committee.
The resolution was
The
recommended.
resolution, absolutely. And then we put it in the budget based on the resolution passing.
That's what I said last week as well.
But I think there was a little bit of confusion on if we recommended it favorably. We absolutely recommended the resolution favorably from this committee.
Understood. Any further questions? We have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? You are adjourned.